Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. I hope you've had an absolutely awesome week. It's been a really interesting week with all the planetary events and we haven't had any we did have a full moon over the weekend, and a lot of people sort of felt that sort of really activated a lot of their emotions, things that they'd brought up from their past, things that they thought that they had let go of and things that they had to be super critical of. That was because the full moon was in Virgo, so it was asking us to have our analytical hat on and to be sort of non-emotional and to be quite judgmental and sort of really sort of divide things into three categories, keeping, going and maybe. So it was a very, very interesting time for us here in Australia. With the events being in Pisces as well, with the sun in Pisces at the moment. We've had lots of weather events here, as I know many places around the world have had, intense snow, intense storms, intense rain events. So that's not uncommon when when a planet, the sun, is in a water sign. We do quite often see more extreme water weather events, and that includes snow, rain, sleet, cyclones, typhoons, hurricanes, all those sort of things. So, it's an interesting time around the globe at the moment. So this week we're going to kick the show off with the Simply Tarot card of the week. And this week it's a really interesting card. It's one of my little favourites. It's called the Knight of Wands. Now, the Knight of Wands can represent a young man up to the age of 25. If so, they would be medium coloured. They would have red or brown hair, green to hazily coloured eyes. But the secondary meaning for this card, which is quite often what comes out in a reading for us as individuals, is important letter. Now, an important letter covers all the electronic media this day and age, whether it's an email, a fax, a message on some sort of form of social media, something that's important to you. It's not necessarily official or government or something that we need to sign for. It is something that we've been waiting for. Now, before we proceed too much further into the show, I'd like to sort of just share with you something very personal. Today is my late husband's birthday. My late husband's been gone over 30 years, but I wanted to share that with you because I want you to understand that it doesn't matter how recent your loss was, whether it was last week, last month, last year, or over 30 years, as it is in my case, we still have those very raw emotions that will come to the surface on special events like birthdays, anniversaries, anniversary of their passing, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, New Year's Day, you name it, and the list goes on. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we haven't dealt with the loss or that we haven't come to terms with it and moved on with our lives. It just means that we're honouring that very, very special person that was in our lives that left, an indelible mark on our being, on our soul, on our day-to-day life. And I can assure you I'm as human as the next person. Just because I work in this industry doesn't make me immune to having feelings or emotions or going through the things that everybody else does. I may just have a slightly different way of looking at it and maybe handling it, but I can assure you I am human. I do have emotions and I still hurt on these sort of days. But I suppose for me now, I can put it into perspective that I feel truly blessed that I had that person in my life for as short as it was. He's been gone longer than he was in my life and was the father of my children. But it's left a very special part in my heart, and I wouldn't be here today without his love, his generosity, his understanding and his encouragement all those years ago to follow my passion, which was working in the psychic industry no matter what life threw at my feet, I was to never give it up. So hopefully, my darling, I've honoured and made you proud all these years. I've continued on with that as a promise I made to you many, many, many moons ago. So that takes me on to the next part of the show, and the healing candle, well, the candle that I've chosen this week is, no, it's not healing, is I've chosen one called Clearing. Now, the reason why I've chosen this one is particularly because I think it's very, very interesting that many, many times we're told in our lives we've got to clear negative energy out. We've got to clear these emotions. We've got to clear this. We've got to clear that. And people say to me, how on earth do I go about it, Amanda? I thought I'd cleared it. And then we get something like last weekend's full moon in Virgo and everything comes floating to the top again. And here we go again for another round of being analytical and trying to release this. What we've got to understand is not everything gets released at the time that we do it. We release what's in our conscious mind, what we're ready to let go of then. And it may take many, many times to release a particular event, like a death, all the emotions that are connected with that. really do go on for many, many, many years. And sometimes we never completely release all the hurt, the disappointment, and the sadness that went with it because someone was taken from us too quickly or whatever the case may be. So what I like to do is work with the clearing candle that I designed a couple of years ago now. And I like to write a little story about what I'd like to clear. Now, that may just be that I want to clear the sadness out of my heart, for example, today. So I would have been burning my clearing candle for the last couple of days in leading up to this and putting there that, as much as I love and miss my late husband, but, I want to release that sadness so that I can bring in the joy of what we shared together as a couple and as a family. So that's how I would work with my clearing candle. Other people may have other issues that they want to clear. They want to clear people out of their life. They want to clear memories. They want to clear the residue of a job that is no longer a part of their life. Want to clear the residue emotion connected to a relationship that didn't work out, or just clear the bad energy between you and someone else. So that's the clearing candle. That's the extra large one. And of course, they do come in the travel set that you can take them with you when you go on holidays, or you may want to do a clearing in your special place. Some people like to do a clearing down the beach because that's where they feel the most comfortable, or out in the woods or in nature. So that just gives you a few options there. So clearing is a very important part, I think, of our emotional well-being. And I feel if we don't clear the things that are hobbling us, we then start to bring on sicknesses and illnesses in our body that stay with us because we've got unresolved emotions. So that takes me on to the next part of the show, which we're going to be starting a brand new 4-part series this week, and it's actually on health. And I chose health because it's one of these things that people often say to me, look, I'm a certain star sign. Why am I getting particular issues? Is there a reason for this? Is this sort of something genetic to my star sign, to my sun sign? Well, the answer can sometimes be yes. So this week we're going to focus on the first 3 signs, which is Aries, Taurus and Gemini. Now, when I first started in astrology many, many moons ago, well over 30 years ago now, I was quite fascinated to be able to sort of relate these things to people that I knew and family members and things like that, and to see how it worked. And the health part of it really caught my attention very early in my studies and my learning of this subject. And it was always interesting to know anybody that was an Aries or had a lot of planets sitting in Aries in their chart actually quite often suffered from a lot of headaches, quite often migraines to one side of the head or just the front of the head, nowhere else. They could come on suddenly. They were intense. They used to say to me, it's like somebody hitting their head with an axe. And they used to say to me, I don't know why this has happened. And it dawned on me then, if they had some unresolved anger or some issue that was coming to the surface, that was how an Aries released it, was they got this splitting headache, had to take a couple of aspirins or paracetamol, and it cleared it. And I'm not saying that they weren't meant to take the meds. What I'm saying is if they looked at it on a double barrel and looked on the fact of, okay, yes, take the aspirin to clear the headache, but on the same level, let's release it or clear it on an emotional level, they might have minimised their chance of re-getting a headache again. Also, Aries rules upper teeth, not the bottom set of teeth, the upper teeth. And quite often Aries people, when they're very stressed and they don't even realise it, but they grind their teeth in the night when they're sleeping and can be seen to be wear down their upper teeth. Sometimes they're known in anger too to break a tooth, and it's usually an upper tooth. So just be aware, if you're an Aries, you can attract very, very high raging fevers. You can get viruses that no one else in the household gets and you get one. It's just a way of you releasing your emotional frustration or anger. But I'm not saying please don't seek medical attention or go to a doctor and have medication. That's very important as well as part of the overall complete healing package. So we move on to the next sign, and the next sign is Taurus. Now, we know that our darling little Taurians don't like to let go of too much because they are a fixed sign and they like to keep hold of everything. And sicknesses and health issues is another thing that they don't necessarily want to share, but they don't necessarily want to talk about it either. So that's where it's interesting, where Taurus actually rules the throat and the neck area. So probably the bottom teeth as well, but more known for the ears, nose and throat. And they're the ones that sort of quite often get, oh, I've got that pain in my neck. And that's where that sort of saying comes from, you give me a pain in the neck, meaning that somebody's annoying them, that all their frustration and their tensions and everything like that have locked their neck up so that they can barely move. And sometimes you'll find with Taurians too, they're more prone to sore throats, tonsillitis, earaches, anything connected with, sniffly noses, sinuses, things like that, all relate to Taurian energy. And it's because quite often they're not speaking their mind or speaking up about the things that are really frustrating them. And with Tauruses, their anger is can be two. It can be a very light, I'm just very cranky with you anger, to a very deep-seated, almost cold, angry rage that boils away deep below the surface. And that's the one that really tends to then manifest itself in these type of illnesses. So if you're a Taurus, you need to be very aware of that you protect your throat, your ears, your nose, all those sort of things, particularly in changes of the season. And make sure that if you're starting to get a niggly throat for some reason, just check to have a little look around in your life to see if anybody's annoying you. Is there something that needs to be said? And particularly if you wake up with a stiff neck, who gave it to you? Did somebody annoy you in the last 24, 48 hours? Who was your pain in the neck? So we now move on to the sign of Gemini. Now, Gemini is a really interesting sign because the Gemini area rules the chest, particularly rules the lungs, but it also, in my opinion, rules anything to do with nervous systems, nerve endings, things like that. It's because it's such a versatile sign that's always jumping around the place and not necessarily wanting to sit still. It sort of governs that sort of area of the body. Anybody that is a Gemini, please do not smoke. You shouldn't smoke, and you shouldn't be in smoky environments because your lungs aren't particularly well developed or strong. You find people with Geminis tend to create or get more chest type colds or asthmas or have allergy asthmas, things like that, and they are more sensitive to things like smoke or incense or even some of the essential oils and candles that people burn today, particularly if they're more toxic chemical ones, not necessarily the natural ones. So be aware of that. Geminis quite often attract chesty type infections when they need to get something off their chest. So you need to be aware of these things. It's not saying you've got to wrap yourself up in cotton wool, no matter what your star sign is. It just means be aware of it and think back to the different times when you've been sick and was there somebody that was really annoying you and you needed to say something or get something off your chest, and bingo, the next thing you know, you had bronchitis or you had an asthma attack. That can sometimes be the reasons, but under no circumstances is astrology a replacement for medical treatment or seeing a medical practitioner or taking your prescribed medication. That is under no circumstances to be changed. You must always seek medical attention. Okay, we're going to move on to what's happening around the universe as we have our little glimpse around the universe this week. We've already spoken about the sun's in Pisces, and it's been bringing up lots of emotional stuff and lots of watery energy and creating lots of watery weather events. And it is a lovely time of the year because I feel it is definitely where we're drawing our astrological year to a close. So it's like December in astrological terms, where the year's coming to a close. We feel this crescendo of energy. Some people are feeling very overwhelmed with it. Some people are feeling as if, my heavens, I don't know what to do with myself. Everything is sort of starting to feel as if it's going out of control. Just, chill out, watch a movie, relax, give yourself a little bit of downtime and just go with it. So this week I want to work with, we've talked about with the sun being in Pisces, but the other major planetary configuration this week that I felt was really affecting most of us is Venus conjunct or holding hands in Aries. Now, this is the time where people that are in close relationships, whether they're in loving relationships or whether it's just somebody that you work closely with or somebody you're in close communication with and connection with, have found that there's been times in this last week, and there will be in the 2 weeks coming up, times here where we need to communicate more clearly. Now, it might be something that you're very passionate about or a new project that you want to get off the ground and you've been sitting on it for a while, or you feel you've needed to have this conversation and you've been waiting for the ideal time to do so. Well, now is the perfect time. because the other person or people involved in the situation will actually be more receptive to what's going on. They've got their listening ears on, they're ready to listen, but you might also find that they might be sort of very one directional with this. They might seem as if they can only see this taking off in one direction instead of many, many directions. It could also be that they say, well, let's just get this off the ground, let's make this happen, let's get it off the drawing board and into action, and then we'll sort of revise as we go along. So it can be seen as a little bit sort of selfish or one directional, or sort of like we're running out of time, we've got to act now. But it's also a time where ideas can sort of really flow if you listen to each other and have somebody taking notes, because otherwise we're going to lose some of these brilliant ideas that were actually sort of happening. So it's a very, very good time to get new ideas off the ground, to have those conversations that you mightn't have been having before, and you need to have them now. So also this week on the show, I wanted to introduce the fact that anybody that wants to get a reading with me after the show that doesn't get through on the show, you can head to my Facebook page, Amanda Hall Psychic. That will lead you through to my website. And if you put in the code word in capitals, radio, in the coupon box, you will find that you will get a discount off any of my services on my website. That's purely and utterly for our A1R Radio Psychic and Moonstruck TV viewers only. So type in the word radio in capitals on my website. We're going to take our first caller now, and it's Claudia in San Diego in California. Are you there, Claudia?
Yes, I'm here.
How can I help you tonight, sweetie?
I was referred to you. I've heard wonderful things about you, and I think I just need some guidance, some help. I've had a tough last couple of years, and I just want to see if things are going to be looking up for me, for my family, or any good news, if I can see the sun at the end of it all.
Okay. Claudia, the first thing that they're showing me was that we're at the ending now. We're at the ending of all the not so pleasant things that have happened in the last couple of years, and it's been a really big struggle, not just for you, but I think everybody close to you has had more than their fair share of issues or things that they've had to deal with, and sort of once you get over that mountain, there's been another mountain to climb. I'm pleased to say between now and the end of April, it's like all of that is just starting to sort of slide away, and we're starting to then bring in some really nice things. I feel for you personally, the remainder of 2018 is going to see you have to make two major decisions. One of those I felt was work-related. So are you not happy with the job that you're in, or are you waiting for a promotion or something like that? There's change there around the work.
Yes, definitely. I am looking forward to changing my job, yes.
Okay. Well, there's definitely a change of job there with new opportunities, better money and better suiting you. I don't know that that's going to happen before April. It's sort of like from April onwards is when things sort of like, it's like we've got the gold stars around us. Everything's guiding us to where we need to go. The second decision that I felt would come up around August, September was more to do with what is the next thing that I want to bring into my life. You know, you've done so much work on yourself. You've sorted so many things out. You've let so many things go, and, you know, you're not giving in to everybody anymore. You're looking at things and saying, no, that doesn't suit me, I'm not going to do that. And that's all wonderful, but it's like, what's the next step? And then the next step may very well be, well, look, I'm not happy with where I'm living. I need to sort of put a plan in place about when I want to move or when I want to make changes to where I'm living. I feel it's around the home, that next sort of major decision. So has moving come into your mind a bit?
Yes, and I have not even discussed it with anyone. Yes, it has.
Yeah, so I just sort of feel from August onwards that really gets a real resurgence with you about, you know, you're sitting down, you're looking at it and you're thinking about it. Might not make a final decision then, but it's when it comes to the surface and I'm ready to sort of really look at it seriously now. So it's good. Look, as far as the immediate family and the extended family, I think they're going into much better times. So I think you need to just be aware of that, you know, things are going to be much easier from here on in, but you have to keep going with not necessarily trying to be everything to everyone, Claudia, because it was almost like they were drowning you while they were trying to save themselves, and that's no good. If you go under, they'll all drown too. You know what I mean? There has to be time for Claudia.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh, that's scary. Yes, exactly.
Wonderful to talk to you, sweetie. Best of luck and have a great night. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Now, I've got to put my glasses on so I can pronounce this properly. Melanie in Gastonia, North Carolina. Are you there, Melanie?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Very well, sweetie. How can I help you?
Relationship? Any changes soon?
Well, I do think there's definitely going to have to be some changes to relationships, Melanie, because I think the ones that you've attracted in the past, we now established that they were wrong for you. But that's okay. You learnt a lot and you had a lot of fun along the way working out what was right, wrong and indifferent. It's interesting because first up I'm seeing somebody trying to come back to you from your past. Now, I've got a man with very dark hair, almost bordering on the lines of black hair, and I sort of feel as if the energy was way back, not recent. Is that ringing any bells with you?
No, not at all. Usually the past is the past.
I understand that, but this person's trying to make some sort of connection or reconnection with you through social media or something like that, and you think, what on earth do they want? You know, like that's well and truly gone. What I'm going to say to you is just look at that as a marker in time. You don't have to go back and visit it. You don't have to even entertain it in any way. Just look at it as a marker in time for showing you that you're now ready to move forward and there's a new relationship to come in past that. But I just sort of feel this person, look, might go back 8 or 10 years, but he had very dark hair, and it's sort of like when they pop up, you think, oh, no, you know, you sort of literally freeze. I couldn't go there for $1 million. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's just sort of, I think, showing you that, hang on a minute, you didn't make the wrong decision. You still feel the same way as you did when the relationship ended. No, thank you. So moving forward, there will be a new man coming in. I sort of feel towards your summertime, so sort of May, June, July. Very different from the type of person that you've attracted before. And I'm not saying different in the way that he's got two heads or anything like that. I mean different in the way that he views the world, different in his persona, different in those sort of things. He seems to be a fairly easygoing man, and I'm not saying he isn't, but what I'm going to say to you is don't just be fooled by that you think he doesn't have any direction just because he seems easygoing. He has tremendous drive, tremendous direction. He just doesn't sort of spill it all out in the one sentence. Do you know what I mean? Like he sort of only gives people bits and pieces of him. It's almost like, well, I'll give you another bit tomorrow and another bit the day after. I like him. He's got a wonderful sense of humour, and as you get to know him more, you'll start to see that there's a lot more to this man than what you first thought. You know, you first thought, bit shallow, not my type, but there's something there that keeps pulling you to go back out with him again, and as you do get to know him better and better, you see the depth that I'm seeing, and I really like him. He's a nice man. He's got bluey-greeny coloured eyes, light brown hair with sort of little flecks of blonde through it, but it's not blonde. He might have been blonde when he was a kiddo, but he's certainly not blonde now. But he's got an unusual sense of humour. Some people would find it very difficult to understand his sense of humour. You find it very easy. It's like, you know, he could start a sentence and you could easily finish it. Even though I think you're very different people in lots of ways, there's a lot of things there that are very similar as you get to know him and the relationship develops. It's going to lead into a very serious commitment, and I don't think it's going to take that long. It's just going at a very, very nice pace. But I really like him. I think the two of you are going to have an absolute ball of a time. There's lots of communication, lots of conversations, and he's been and done and knows a lot of things. So conversations with him are incredibly interesting. If I could sort of say he's got one fault, he sort of tends to, if he doesn't like someone, he doesn't put any effort into it. You know what I mean? He's not even, don't say he's rude, but he sort of just chops them off. You know what I mean? It's like a coldness. And you sort of think, oh, you shouldn't really do that. You know what I mean? You could have done that in a more gentle way. That's just who he is.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that somebody that hasn't got a high intellect or something, that he's not judgmental in that way. It's just people that annoy him. You know what I mean? Like people that sort of are always whinging and never get off their backside and make anything happen. He can't be bothered with them. Yet somebody else that might have a disability and they're really trying hard, he'd have all the time in the world for them and be so patient. And you sort of think it's almost like two people we're dealing with, but it's not. It's just he just doesn't tolerate fools easily, I'll put it that way. But I really like him and I think he's a nice man. I also sort of feel that there's question marks around your job, income / am I in the right place? Is that how you've been feeling recently too?
Yes.
Yeah, look, I don't know that it's the time to make a final decision on that yet. I just want you to sort of just go with that energy, because today you might feel that way and tomorrow you feel differently. And it's like being on a seesaw, going up and down. I feel by about end of May, you'll have a much clearer direction about, is it time to now seriously start looking for another job? You know, like up until then, I'm not convinced.
Okay.
But I think just keep yourself busy. Do things that make you happy. You know, don't focus on it too much. It's just sort of, it's not the time to job change just yet. So I feel if you can look at it that way, it'll become a lot easier. And, you know, you need to take some time for you too, Melanie. It's time to get out back into nature. Go for a walk, you know, stop and smell the flowers. Do things like that. You haven't given yourself enough time to do that recently.
No, I have not. I am trying, though.
Yeah, but you need to do that. They were showing me that would give you, without thinking about anything, answers will come while you're back out in nature, and it's good. Anyway, lovely to speak with you, Melanie. Here we are again at the end of the show. It goes very, very quickly. So on next week's show, of course, we'll have our Simply Tarot card of the week, our candle of the week. We'll have our second part series on health, where we'll be working with Cancer, Leo and Virgo. So I hope you can join us for that. And don't forget, if you want a reading or another service from me, code word in capital letters radio on my Facebook page, Amanda Hall Psychic, and you'll find all the information there that'll take you through to the website. If you've got any questions or anything that you'd like me to talk about on the show, feel free to personal message me on Facebook, and I'll be happy to try and incorporate it into shows over the coming week. So have a great week, and I hope you continue on with clearing of all your emotions, and we'll do it all again in 7 days, and have a bye for now.